Hi, it's Colin here from Colin's Beauty Pages, and I'm talking today about a long-standing cosmetic ingredient, which is caffeine. Obviously, we all know about caffeine. Some of us actually require it for the normal functioning of our lives. I start every day with a cup of some kind of caffeine-rich beverage because, well, I just do. All right, let's just get that established. Caffeine has been used in cosmetic products for a number of reasons. There are three main ones: body sculpting, skin toning, and hair loss prevention, or even stimulation. The logic behind it sounds fairly reasonable. Caffeine has a stimulating effect on fat burning, and therefore it's sort of logical that you should be able to use it for these applications which remove fat. Body sculpting in particular is a particularly attractive one, because the idea that you can apply a cream to parts of your body which are fatter than you'd like them to be, and to reduce those without affecting other parts of the body which you might be happy with is a very appealing prospect. So it's a matter of everyday observation that caffeine has this stimulating effect. You can tell it when you drink a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. It's also a fact that caffeine penetrates the skin very well, so it's one of the few drugs which actually does this quite readily. So you can apply it to the skin and it will penetrate. So those all sound reasonable proposals. The thing about caffeine which would perhaps make you doubt whether it might work is that it's a very small water-soluble molecule. So if it does get across the skin, what you would expect it to do is get straight into the bloodstream and rapidly spread through the body. So the idea of it having a local effect is a little bit harder to believe, but these things are always worth a try. So if somebody came up with some evidence that body sculpting worked, I'd be very interested. As it happens, as far as I can tell, nobody has done so. There's some limited data available in the business, in the form of studies done by the people who manufacture caffeine or caffeine-based products. That kind of data you have to treat with a little bit of caution, and the stuff I've seen isn't very good anyway. There's certainly nothing in a peer-reviewed journal which really bears out the idea that body sculpting is effective. So I started off quite sceptical, and every year that goes by my scepticism increases. As for the body toning, this one I think isn't even that convincing in principle. The idea that by stimulating energy release in your skin you can do something to improve the skin's appearance doesn't seem to me to be particularly obvious, and there's certainly no evidence I've seen. And the third area is rather more specialist, but products do exist which trade on this quite heavily, which is caffeine as a stimulant for hair growth. Now, there is evidence that caffeine can have an effect on hormone levels in the body. Hair growth is controlled by hormones. So again, in principle, you can imagine that it could possibly work. And again, the fact that the caffeine can penetrate through the skin and get to the site of action is encouraging and makes you think, well, in principle, this could work. But once again, the problem is lack of evidence. Now, this is one where really, if you could do a trial and show that caffeine had a positive effect on hair growth, that would be big news. It would be in all the newspapers, let alone in the scientific journals. And again, as far as I can tell, nobody has done so. The fact that caffeine is readily available means that there must have been people who have simply started drinking caffeine and found that their baldness was cured by it. I'm pretty sure if that was a common experience, we would know all about it by now. So on the whole, my level of skepticism about caffeine has always been fairly high, and it's also been steadily increasing. But recently I managed to become even more sceptical when I had a chance to talk to a food scientist who said that, in fact, the way caffeine works is being investigated, and it looks like the old idea that what caffeine does is gets into your bloodstream and then goes to the areas where fat's metabolized to generate energy and stimulates that production, and then you get your energy boost from the caffeine releasing the energy. It sounds like that's in fact not the way it works. The latest evidence is that it works by stimulating the brain so that the brain is sending out messages to be more active, and it can be shown in athletes that caffeine will enable them to keep going longer than they would do without caffeine. So rather than being a direct energy stimulant, what it does is it modifies your your psychological behaviour so that you burn more energy. It's a subtle difference, but it's an important one from the body sculpting point of view, and because from the hair loss point of view, because if it means that what the caffeine is doing is acting on the brain rather than on your body, it's even less likely that the effects claimed for caffeine will occur, because the supposed energy releasing properties of caffeine may not actually exist, or if they do exist, they may be much less significant than we previously thought. I'm afraid it was a conversation. I didn't get a reference out of it, so I normally put references on my blog posts and link to them on my videos. So if anybody knows what I'm talking about there and can put me in the right direction, I'd be very grateful for it. Anyway, I better get back to doing some proper work and stop bothering you for references. And I thank you for listening, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Thank you.